Yep, a trap is being set. It's a mouse trap right here. And a trap is being set against John the Baptist. But God willed it, allowed it. He didn't like that the murder of John the Baptist happened, but his time was up. And when you're in God's hands and you get the opportunity to die for God, being a righteous person and dying because of the righteousness that you're showing, wow, what an honor to die for Jesus. What an honor to die for God the Father. Really cool. But that's going to be the next story. We're leading up to it. And the writer, Mark, is leading up to it. And so we're going to do a bit of review, but we're going to go deeper into this. Wow, what a story. This is kind of a step towards the big climax coming up, which is the climax of the death of John, which was very honorable that he did that for Jesus and for God. All right, here's what it says. If you remember, it says Herod himself had sent forth. No, it says, but when Herod heard of it, it is John whom I might beheaded, and he was risen from the dead. If you don't know what I'm talking about, go back to the last video. Then it says, for Herod himself, this is Herod Antipas. Like I said, I think there's 6 Herods, or 4 Herods in the Bible, in the New Testament, but kind of a title. It says, for Herod himself had sent forth and laid hold upon John. So he came out, got John. He had heard about John. He was very intrigued by John. Like, who is this guy? What is he like? He also heard about Jesus for a long time. And then later, right, if you remember in Matthew's gospel, if you've been studying with me, the Bible says he actually got to meet him, and he wanted to for a long time. He also wanted to see a miracle by Jesus. But anyway, that didn't happen. You can't just snap your fingers and get a miracle from God. It says, for Herod himself had sent forth and laid hold upon John and bound him in prison. And he did it not because he really wanted to. In a way he did, in a way he didn't. This is really mixed emotions and mixed reasons and messed up guy. This guy was a drunkard type guy. He was slick like a fox, that I said. There's just a lot of stuff about this guy. Ugh. And it says, but he bound him in prison, especially because of his wife, Herodias. Isn't that interesting? Herod, oh yes, Herodias. It's Herod's name is in her name too. Wonder if that's her real name. His brother Philip's wife. What a mess. I'll go over that in a little bit. For he had married her. So Herod married his brother's wife. And Philip hadn't died yet. It's different if he would have died, and back in those days, especially in the Jewish law, God said, it's good to go ahead and marry that person in order to continue the family line, the family tree of that person, keep it going, to have kids and all. Then it says, for John had said to Herod, here's why he had done it, and Herodias, if there was a hatred from a person, it's from Herodias. She couldn't stand John the Baptist, just loathed him, despised, abhorred. Ugh. Hatred, mean, vicious. She was awful. It is not lawful for you to, this is what John was saying about Herod. It's not lawful, it's not right for you to have your brother's wife, because it was really different things as bad about it was bad. It says, therefore Herodias had a quarrel against him and would have killed him, but she could not. She couldn't kill John. She wanted to just kill him right away. For Herod feared John, knowing that he was a just man and a holy one, and observed him. He watched him carefully. And when he heard him, he did many things and heard him gladly. That's what it says. He heard him gladly. All right. Wow. Where do I begin, right? There's so much. All right, listen to this. This is really good. Really interesting, I should say. Some of it is not good at all. Ugh, a lot of it isn't. But look at this. I've added to the thing that I did before because I want to share more about this. I've already done this family tree of Herod the Great, and then Herod Antipas, and then Herod Philip. But I've added some more. Just awful family. It's probably the most mixed up family in the history of the life, but who knows, of the world. All right, so Herod the Great right here came from Antipater, that came from Antipas. Antipas had Antipater the second, Herod the Great. Herod the Great married at least, I don't think there's any more than that, but 10 wives, this over time. And not at once. They didn't have a wedding with 10 wives. But down here, Doris was his first wife, and he had Antipater right here. Antipater was up here, so I guess I would say that's Antipater the third. I don't know if you can see that, but anyway, this is Antipater. And then he also married his favorite wife, Miriam, and there's different spellings in that, by the way, in history. It's interesting. Miriam the first, and he married another Miriam the second. Pretty amazing. And Miriam the first had Alexander the first and Aristobulus. So here's two guys. And then Aristobulus had a daughter named Herodias. Herodias had a daughter named Salome. Miriam the second had Philip the first. And it's interesting. There's a lot of names in families that are popular, common names. Philip was one of them. Antipater was another. So Antipas was another. So we have Antipas up here, and then we have Herod Antipas that we're talking about in this Bible chapter in Mark chapter 6. So anyway, this is a Philip here, or Philip the first, which is Miriam the second's son, married Herodias, his cousin, or niece, I mean. Woo, crazy. Then we have Maltese, which had Archelaus, which is in the Bible, in Matthew and all, that took over. And then Antipas, which is in the Bible, who we're talking about. This is Antipas that we're talking about. He took Philip's wife from Herodias. He went to Rome, and that Philip, by the way, and Herodias actually lived in Rome. It seemed they resided there, because that's where Salome was. She was up there for a long time. And Philip lived up there, the first Philip. There's another Philip. Or is that the first, or is there other Philips? Yep, that was the first. All right. Coming up, there's another Philip. So that Philip lived in Rome. He went and he liked Herodias, and Herodias liked him. This is Herod Antipas. Went to Rome, and they decided and connived together that, you know what, let's marry. And I think Herodias was behind all this. I think Antipas was a weak man. Hey, gentlemen, boys, teenager boys, men, be a man. Definitely you want to serve your wives, love them, serve them, be a servant to them, like really big time, try and please them. But also be a good leader, a strong man. And a good wife, by the way, we're going to get in all this, oh my goodness, there's so much here, should serve her husband and submit to him and all, but Herodias controlled him like crazy. And as a girl, you shouldn't be controlling others, and he shouldn't be controlling you either. It should be a mutual servant thing here, but she was wicked and manipulative and really controlled him, had him wrapped around, and he was just, yes, dear, just whatever. I don't know if he feared her, just weak. It's just not a good man. Should have godly stood up, be a godly man and stood up and stood for righteous. Say, I'm not going to try and, kill this guy and all that. But he did stop some of it. This is a mess. All right, so look at these arrows. Philip married Herodias, who had Salome, which is coming up in the next story. Antipas took Herodias and married her. They divorced. Okay. And then it goes on to, oh, by the way, the other Philip is Herod the Great also met and married Cleopatra, who, by the way, had a son named Philip. That is the Bible one that's mentioned, the Tetrarch. Although Philip is kind of mentioned over here too. That's the Tetrarch that had an area up north of Israel. That's a different Philip. He was the guy that Herod the Great gave some of the land in his will. When he died, he gave it to Archelaus, Antipas, and Philip the Tetrarch. This Philip lived in Rome. He didn't even have a place down here in Israel. Intrigue. All right. I want to mention that Herod the Great first he killed Doris's son, Antipater, because he feared these guys. It was like a, paranoia, like really, oh no, they're going to take over my throne. And they probably wanted to. I think they were plotting to get him. That happened a lot in the Bible days, way back. The sons wanted to take over the throne. There's different sons. Who's going to take the throne? Who's going to be the king? Who's going to be the tetrarch, the governor and all that, the leader, the ruler? And so he killed Antipater. right here. He killed his son, Doris' son. He also killed Miriam's, his favorite. Notice I spelled it different ways because there are different ways of spelling it. Alexander and Aristobulus. He killed his son here. He killed his other son. He killed his son. Like, wow. The one who was the father of Herodias. And wow, just really insane history. But we get a lot of this information, most of it from this type of stuff, from a writer that I've mentioned over and over. Do you know who it is? A Jewish historian named Josephus, named after Joseph. All right. Now, I kind of said some of this. I read it. Now, let's finish up by doing this. Well, first, let's start with this. How did Herod how did he look at John? What was Herod's view of John? Mixed views. You put Matthew, Mark, Luke, and Josephus that mentioned about John the Baptist also. I love all the other outside of the Bible writings that confirm what happened in the Bible. Now, there's also some things, like in this case, Josephus wrote some things, and then the Gospels wrote some things that sometimes seem like they contradict, but if you mesh them together, they actually fit well. There's different reasons for why John was put in a prison, and different reasons that Herod married, and Herodias, and all these different things that were stated in these writings. Put them together, you get a big picture. Look at this picture right here. Herod's view of John. This is John the Baptizer. Okay. One is that, I don't know if in any particular order, he definitely, the Bible says, he feared him. He was afraid of John. John was not afraid of Herod, and yet Herod had the power to kill him. He had the power of life and death. He was a ruler, and the Roman army would back him, whatever he did, basically, and probably. And then John could have been killed easily by Herod. But he feared him. He was like, he's afraid of him. He's scared. Why? Because John intrigued him. He was so, like, if you put all this together, you kind of get a picture. He was like fascinated. He was so, wow, look at this guy. He's so bold, and he's saying this, and I could kill him, and look at him. He's not afraid at all. Now, this is a great lesson here in the Bible. Really good one. John was awesome. He tried to reach Herod, and he also let people around him know this leader, Herod, is not a good example for you guys. And leaders should be examples. Presidents and governors and policemen and all should be good examples here. This guy was a horrible example. But he also knew that he was offending God, and that God's wrath is going to come on him. And it did. Unless he repented at the end, who knows? He may have heard Jesus in the message of John and repented before he died. It happens, but probably not, So anyway, John spoke like a trumpet, blasted out, heralded it. He said, it is not lawful for you to do it. Now, or he says, not lawful for Herod to do it. So he was going up and down the Jordan River, probably saying that at times. He was preaching against the government and the people in the government. Wow, really good, because of their sin. It was sinful. But Herod feared him. He also was obviously fascinated by him and really puzzled. He was like, what is this? How can he say this? And what does he mean? He thought a lot about the messages. And that's why it says in that passage, he did many things. I don't know if he tried to get himself right, sort of, like did this, did that. Maybe he pacified, tried to help John. I don't know, all these things. He actually brought him into his prison in court and listened to him while he was in court. I don't think he went out and listened to him among the crowds. No. People were like, there's Herod, But anyway, he was fascinated and puzzled by him. And he listened to him in his palace, or his court, the courts of his palace. He obviously respected him. He had a fearful respect of him, a reverence, like he really thought he was an amazing guy. He respected him. Why? Because it says, as in the Bible that I read earlier, he considered him a holy man, a righteous man. And according to the people, he was a prophet. To the crowds, he was a prophet. So he said, maybe he's really a prophet of God. But he considered him holy and righteous for sure. Next one is that he did have him arrested. Even though he viewed him wrong, for Herodias' sake, he put him into prison. Not a good decision. All right. He also protected him, though. Even though he put him in prison, he actually protected him. The Bible says it. He kept him safe. Safe from who? Safe from what? Herodias. Herodias would have loved to send a guard down there and kill him. Just put a sword through him. I want him dead. By the way, the next story is about the plot and the trap that Herodias set to get John. And it worked. Ugh. All right, but anyway, so he did actually protect him from Herodias. Really strange. He arrested him and yet protected him. He listened to him. The Bible says he listened. He heard him gladly. So he really listened to John. John preached and he listened. He also literally admired him. It's kind of mentioned throughout here, but that's another way of really bringing it out. He admired the boldness of John. He also really thought about what he said. I think he thought about hell. He thought about doing right things and how he's wrong. He never did divorce Herodias and say, we need to split this relationship up because we're wrong. He kept it up. See, he feared her. To a certain degree. Yeah, he also in his pride and his male ego said, I'm not going to kill him and all that. And he didn't. You know, I mean, he later he did in the trap, but he protected him. So this is just kind of a weird situation. Now, where was John? Where was he in prison? I want to say this. The Bible doesn't say. He could have been in prison, put in a jail in Tiberias, because that's what in 20 AD Herod Antipas had this city built right there on the Sea of Galilee. It's a really beautiful spot right on the sea to look out off of that beautiful blue sea and the warm waters there, and kind of really pretty around there. It's a really beautiful spot. And he named it, I've said before, after one of the emperors, Tiberius, Caesar. But of course he dug up the graves of the Jewish people and cleaned them out and then built his city on top of there. Not good. It's a sacred area, not liked. And Jesus, within a 10 to 15 mile radius, or maybe even longer, preached all around there, but he's never recorded as preaching as a preacher there. Jesus never visited, according to the record, Tiberias. But anyway, he could have had John put there, in a prison there. But according to Josephus, he was put down here in this area. This is Galilee. He was over Galilee. Herod Antipas was over this area. He's over this area. This called Perea. It's on the east side, not at the west. It's the east side of Jordan River, Perea. It goes all the way down here. It's not here. This is Decapolis, 10 city region. And then down here, Perea goes like this. And this is sort of like this area, especially Machaerus, that fortress there, that was like his winter palace. During the winters, he loved coming down here or something. But anyway, Machaerus is what it is. And it's about, I estimate about 6 to 7 miles from Dead Sea to the east. It's a fortress. It's still there. You can see the dungeons, and you can actually see like shackles on the wall. Maybe the shackles that John had. He was in a dungeon. So that's where it was. That's where this all happened. He could have been at Machaerus, and then traveled up to Tiberias, or Tiberias to Machaerus. And I'm not sure which one he died at. It could have been Machaerus. But anyway, could have traveled there for a couple of days or something. Maybe he had the party that's coming up here at Tiberias. Maybe he had it at Machaerus, at there. I'm not sure. But anyway, there you go. Gives you a lot of information. Pretty interesting. Sad, but wow. Curious reading and understanding. Now, with all that in mind, do you understand this passage more? He feared him, though he was a just man and a holy one. He observed, he watched him. When he heard him, he did many things, and Herod did many things, which doesn't say what he did. And he heard him gladly, and then the time came that something happened, and that's the next video, most likely. God bless you.